We had reached out to the very first 200 customers that Prodigy Finance has ever dispersed a loan to.
So when I saw the email, I jumped at the chance just to tell the story, hoping people find encouragements to follow the plan and to follow what they would like to do. I am from Mexico. I lived in Mexico for 29 years. I come from a nice middle class family in Mexico, which can definitely not afford an MBA outside of the country. You go to INSEAD and my class is 69 nationalities. It's only 1 year versus 2 that you stop working. Just thinking through that if you move to Europe and you study in France and you study in Singapore, you can have more opportunities. You're betting on yourself twice, right? You're betting that you will make it and you're betting that you're good enough to get in. After my MBA, I have lived in Switzerland, I have lived in Singapore, I have lived in LA in US, in Cleveland in US. I have right now, since I was 33, I have been in leadership teams, in the US of a 10 billion market. I am the only Mexican in it. I believe in the mission because I have lived through it for the last 15 years. Without Prodigy, I am 100% sure it would not have happened because my family did not have the resources to help me. It really felt like that. That's the first thing that I was able to find that opened the door. That then had led to all the stuff that I had been able to experience. To me, it changed my life. I am happy to have Prodigy as part of my story.
Hello and welcome to the International Student Podcast. We have such a special guest. We had reached out to the very first 200 customers that Prodigy Finance has ever dispersed a loan to. And today we have Polo Del Campo, one of the first 200 customers that we have dispersed a loan to, who is a master's graduate from INSEAD. He had completed his master's in 2009. He's here today to share his study abroad journey. Thank you so much for chatting to us today, Polo.
Thank you for having me first. I was excited to read the email. I know when I went to INSEAD that Prodigy was just getting started, but I had no idea that I was one of the first 200 people to get a loan and to get the opportunity to open the doors that Prodigy has opened for me. So when I saw the email, I jumped at the chance just to tell the story, hoping people find encouragements to follow the plan and to follow what they would like to do.
Before we get into it, Polo, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from?
I am from Mexico. I'm born and raised there. I lived in Mexico for 29 years. I am industrial engineering graduate, but I never really worked as an industrial engineer. I moved into the consulting track with BCG right out of university when I was 25. And I kind of made the decision to think about an MBA, which is very typical in consultancy. And then you had the option of US and Europe, which was not as common, especially coming from Mexico. And then around 28. And by 29, I had, the wonderful GMAT, all the wonderful things that you need to do. And I basically had to make a choice of where to apply, which is when you finally start thinking, okay, I need to pay for this. You come from a nice middle class family in Mexico, which can definitely not afford an MBA outside of the country, and then you're like, okay, now I need to find a loan to be able to do it, which is not an easy task in Mexico because loans for MBAs outside of Mexico, this is not an industry that exists even to this day.
You raise such a valid point about saying that studying in Europe as a Mexican is not a very common path. What made you decide to go to Europe and not to the US?
I think it's exactly that, and I thought about hopefully the different scenarios or the different doors that would be there, right? Typical, stereotype is you take an MBA, UCLA or Stanford, NYU, spend a few years in the US, you either stay there or you go back to Mexico to be close to your family, right? And that is, I would say, maybe 7 out of 10 people out of Mexico that go study abroad. Thinking about Europe, and especially a school like INSEAD, when I went to INSEAD, I had been to Europe once in my life and always only traveled to US and Canada. You go to INSEAD and my class is 69 nationalities. It's only 1 year. That's also makes a big difference. It's only 1 year versus 2 that you stop working. And just thinking through that, if you move to Europe and you study in France and you study in Singapore, then you can have more opportunities and you also it's more exciting for me than just say, okay, I will go to US where I know the culture, I know the people, I know how they work, versus thinking, okay, I'm going to go to INSEAD and I have no clue where I'm going to end up. And that was, that was exciting for me.
Amazing. And what about making the decision to study your master's specifically? What inspired that?
I think there's two things. One thing that is personal, that I grew up in Mexico. I was always there, and I wanted to see what was out there. So one is a personal reason on, I want to leave Mexico and I want to see new things and I want to learn new things. I want to experience new things. Why INSEAD or why an MBA? I had the luck to go directly into BCG, right? And BCG is a wonderful school to teach you what could be, to teach you how good you can be or how not good you can be. And, at that age, after BCG, I said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to be ambitious. I'm not only going to go away, but I'm going to go from one of the best schools one of the best global schools out there, right? Which was to be, you are betting on yourself twice, right? You're betting that you will make it, and you're betting that you're good enough to get in and good enough to then be able to pay back what is an unexpected MBA.
Prodigy Finance's CEO actually also went to INSEAD. I don't know if you know that.
I did because at the time, as you said, I was one of the first people there. They were maybe HSC, and then you had INSEAD, you just LBS, only a few schools that Prodigy was working with. It was definitely not as big as it was now. So I was aware there was a group of alumni that kind of funded the company specifically for profiles like the one that I had, which, by the way, in the class before me, there was another person from Mexico as well that also decided to go to INSEAD and that also got a loan from Prodigy Finance as well. So this is also, Prodigy was already making a name with the people in countries that had an issue because it's, as I said, it was common to go to the US, and it was easier to get either a loan in Mexico or a scholarship in US. When you go to Europe, people in Mexico did not know INSEAD. So, okay, I'm not going to loan you money for a school I do not know. And then obviously you don't have access to any loan whatsoever out of any financial institution in Europe. There was a loan available, but you had to give your house in the same value as the loan to be able to get the money. My family doesn't have a house as a collateral for a loan. And then you also have to ask your parents, hey, by the way, you have to bet on me because if I don't do well, you guys will not have a house. And this is where Prodigy comes in. Prodigy is looking at the profile, is looking at the school and say, look, these people will have, even if they have an average career out of an INSEAD alone, this is people that, we need to bet. And I think what also resonated with me is that if you look at the mission of INSEAD, right, which is to do good through business, this also helped really have a class in INSEAD that is more diverse. And it has, everywhere I have been after my MBA, I have made that company more diverse because there's not a lot of Mexicans where I've been out of the MBA. And all comes from the initial part that somebody in Prodigy said, I'm going to believe in these people. I'm going to believe that this is good. I'm going to believe that this is aligned with the INSEAD vision. I'm going to believe that this is aligned with the vision from Prodigy, and it makes the world a better place. Right? It sounds very naive and marketing and so on, but the reality is, after my MBA, I have lived in Switzerland, I have lived in Singapore, I have lived in LA in US, in Cleveland in US. I have then I went back to Singapore, then I went to Barcelona. And everywhere I've been, really Mexican, Right now, since I was 33, I have been in leadership teams, in the US of a 10 billion market, here in a 12 billion company. And I am the only Mexican in the room. And I am the only people that has the origin that I come from. So I believe in the mission because I have lived through it for the last, 15 years, right? This is why I sound so happy and so, it's a little bit like I am preaching, but I feel it because I have lived through it.
I love that. I'm so glad that we took a bet on you, Polo. Tell us, what are you doing at the moment?
Right now, I am working as a business transformation head, which basically means that we look at processes for multinational companies. We find ways to improve them, to either eliminating work or automating or using it. Now we're starting to use AI to fix that. It's a good role. It's a global role. And as I mentioned, right now we're a 12 billion company. And I sit in that global team, right? We have the head offices are in the Netherlands, but we have a big knowledge center here in Barcelona, which is where a lot of us are based out of, right?
Fantastic. Do you think that doing your master's made a direct impact into where you are today?
I agree. It's a difficult answer because some people will they like to question the value of INSEAD MBA or ESA MBA or Harvard or Stanford. To me, it's a little bit about how ambitious do you want to be and how do you see yourself. It is a branding exercise, especially coming from Mexico, right? You come from Mexico, And my school, people cannot pronounce here, right? Instituto Tecnológico de Monterrey del Estado de México. Yeah, that it takes it's a mouthful, and people do not know the school. So it is a little bit about having that brand that people will know, that will open doors for you as well. In the end, they will not find you a job. They will not do the job for you, but it will open the door for you. And then it's up to you what you make of that opportunity. But if I had not gone to INSEAD, I am not sure I would have the doors that have opened for me. The first one being right out of INSEAD, I went to work in Nestle in the headquarters in Switzerland. And a little bit what happened, it took 5 months to me to get that work permit. Right? This is a little bit where, the people that come from Latin America, people that might come from India, from Nepal. By the way, my MBA best friend is from Nepal. They don't understand this part. That means if somebody in Europe wants to hire you and you have a Mexican passport, you need to wait 3, 4, 5 months. To move to Barcelona, it took 3 months to get the permit to move. So every time somebody's taking a chance, I'm waiting for you to get there as well. So that combination of, okay, I can feel a little bit safer because this person was in BCG, because this person was in INSEAD, he did a good interview. It comes a little bit with the risk you have to take if you want to live where you are from and kind of follow a path that might not be, the more traditional path.
You mentioned you traveled all over the world after your master's. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, right now in Barcelona, I am in country number 5. So I was in Nestle working for 3 years, which was also a global role, which also led me to work in projects. First one was in Thailand, then I went to Vietnam, I went to the Philippines, I went to Peru, I went to Panama, I went to Guatemala, and I went to US. All that within 3 years. Then I moved with Nestle as an expat in the US. And I was in the US for 5 years. Again, I don't think it's a door that would have opened without INSEAD, without Prodigy, because I was 33. I was sitting in an operations leadership team where the next person was a vice president that was 45 when I was already 33. So you can see the doors that are open, the opportunities that you get. I was there for 5 years. 3 years I was living in LA, and then 2 years I was living in Cleveland, Ohio, of all places, which, by the way, I love. I love the beautiful Mistake in the Lake is it has been one of my favorite stops. I was there for 5 years, and then the next door opened, which is my former Nestle manager called me. He had a global position out of Singapore for a 24 billion company at the time. And I said, okay, I can stay in the US, I can take a finance role and I'll become local and I will have a normal life. Or I can pack what was my wife and a 6-month-old baby and said, okay, I want to move to Singapore. So we said, okay, let's go. We bet on the farm of going to INSEAD did work. Now let's bet again on ourselves and let's move to Singapore. And we moved to Singapore, right? So that was country number 3. It was Singapore. It was a time to learn. When I joined, I landed, and 6 months after I landed, the board decided to split the company into 2, and the manager that gave me the job retires. And then COVID happened. But in the end, we love Singapore. We love that place. I spent a couple of months there during my MBA. I got to live right in front of my best friend. We had a fountain in the middle, but we could say good morning to each other every morning. I met him during INSEAD. And again, we went through the learning as well. We had a second baby. So out of Singapore now, we were a family of, and then out of that, I started to, I'm an ambitious guy. I went to BCG, I went to INSEAD, then I had 2 kids. And then COVID happened. And then, okay, I have always been paid to be strategic at my job. Now I need to be strategic about my life. My dad and my in-laws are not getting any younger. They are in Mexico. So we need to be somewhere in the middle as well. The other thing that happened, you heard me comment about, my passport, and it takes a while to get a job. I said, okay, we need a new passport, right? This is also something that happened. All my friends that come from developing countries, we were all thinking the same, like, okay, now I need another option, because if another COVID crisis happens, I don't know what will happen to me. To move to Spain. That's why we decided to move to Spain. We have been with 3 years. My family comes. Either somebody, we always have somebody from the family in the house about 50% of the time. The kids are happy. Even though they don't speak Spanish, so I have 2 Mexicans that are unwilling to speak Spanish unless you make them, because they grew up, they learn how to speak in Singapore, so they still prefer English than anything else. And this is what led me to Barcelona, right? So it is always a combination of taking a chance on yourself and then figuring out what opportunities are there and then kind of walking through it and see and try to make the best of it all. Even in Singapore, as I said, it was not an easy time, but you learn to be patient, you learn to be more resilient, you still learn a different skill set. There's still a lot of learnings to take, when things don't go don't go as planned, right? You learn to say, okay, now I need to make the best of it. Now I need to make sure that, we still find a workable solution. And in the end, it was also a really good learning.
Amazing, Polo. What an honor it is to chat to you. One of the first 200 customers that we have dispersed a loan to. Do you have any advice for our listeners today? Maybe someone who's also from Mexico and considering studying their master's. What advice do you have for a student like that?
I think what helped me was to have a clear view of what I wanted. There is always, when you want to study a master's, you need to think about what is it that you try to accomplish. So you select the right school and you selected, what is going to work for you, right? To me, is do you want to change industry? It's one of the things that you need to think about, right? Because if you want to work in marketing, there's a lot of good MBAs about marketing in the US. Do you want to live in Europe? Do you want to live in Asia, right? So do you want to change geography as well, right? And then personally, what do you think is the right cultural fit for you? The environment in a Harvard MBA, Wharton MBA, Stanford MBA, they're all quite different. INSEAD is also quite different. What do you think is going to be the best personal fit? And to me, the other advice that I didn't think at the time is the personal side of it is the one that you will remember the most, because you will study an MBA, you will learn a lot, and then you will go back to industry or you will go back to consulting, wherever you are working, and you will forget a little bit about it. But the personal experience of getting to know so people that are like-minded, that are also ambitious, that also want to, some of them want to be CEO, some of them want to fund, to start an NGO and fix the world. But everybody there is ambitious. To have so many like-minded people at the right time of your life is something that will change you forever. It will change the way you see yourself into what you can accomplish, and you all of a sudden you will see, like, I can really accomplish whatever I want, and it will also open the eyes into success doesn't have one definition. Success is something that you need to create, you need to understand, you need to talk to people, and you need to learn, and you will slowly find what makes you happy, find what will make you successful. It's not a one size fits all. It's the start of a race, but to me, it changed my life. And I was telling, Cindy in the little conversation before the podcast, without Prodigy, I am 100% sure it would not have happened, because my family did not have the resources to help me. And that was the first thing. And you heard me say this, but it really felt like that. That's the first thing that I was able to find that opened the door, that then had led to all the stuff that I had been able to experience. So to me, I am happy to be here, and I am happy to have Prodigy as part of my history.
And we are so happy to be a part of your study abroad journey, Paula. Thank you so much for chatting to us today, for your encouraging words. So great to hear from someone who has done it before, and just seeing where you are today. It's so beautiful. So thank you so much once again for joining us today.
Thank you.